Hello, class. My name is Jasmine Green, and I will be presenting on implementing life skills training in the high school curriculum. So, what does the term life skills actually mean? Life skills can generally be defined as a skill or learned behavior that helps get people through everyday life. The World Health Organization defines life skills as abilities for adaptive and positive behavior that enables individuals to deal effectively with the demands of life. In other words, these are skills that we use in everyday life, like when we pay the bills, wash clothes, create resumes. They are competencies that help people function well in their environments. Why do we need life skills? And why is the basic math, English, and science classes just not good enough? If students were going to make a successful transition to college and career, students need to do more than focus on academics. Experts say helping students develop grit, self discipline, and critical thinking skills needs to be prioritized as well. And this was quoted from a researcher that developed, one of the researchers that developed life skills training and the importance of life skills training within high schools. So, incorporating life skills classes in the high school curriculum as a requirement to graduate will prevent young teens that are coming into the real world and being overwhelmed because they just don't know the basic life skills to survive and flourish as an adult. Making life skills required brings added pressure to the students, forcing them to understand the information being taught. With math, students leave high school knowing how to add, subtract, and perform equations because they have to. If we develop that same have to mindset in regards to life skills, youth will leave school knowing how to pay bills, say no to drugs, create a resume, um, to the basics of credit, and even more. So, what is the actual problem? Once teens graduate high school, they can state the Pythagorean theorem, understand what turns leaves green, and can find the value of x, right? But most of these teens do not know the first thing when it comes to taxes, credit, how to balance a checkbook, or even how to wash their laundry. And these are the skills. These are the main skills that you will need in order to survive in the real world and on your own. If life skills are so important, why isn't it taught in school anyway, right? Well, most of these skills are thought and assumed to be taught at school, or I'm sorry, at home rather. But that's not always the case. For example, if parents are living paycheck to paycheck, they can't preach the value of saving. Or if parents have their papers, bills, and forms thrown over the counter, they can't stress the importance of being organized. That's why it's up to our schools, whose jobs it is to prepare the students for life, to teach them about these important, vital life skills. Botvin, a researcher on life skills training, researched life skills training being implemented within a high school, which led to conducting studies on this topic. His study led to four conclusions. Teaching interpersonal skills lowers substance abuse. Teaching interpersonal skills lowers aggression and violence. Teaching intrapersonal skills increases mental health awareness. And teaching intrapersonal skills increases self-esteem. So first let's define inter and intrapersonal skills. Interpersonal skills are defined as those that help with conflict resolution, being able to conduct oneself appropriately in different scenarios, and having good decision-making tactics. Intrapersonal skills are skills that concern with oneself, that is healthy in mind and body. So to prove all of these theories, Botvin completed a study with 160 high schoolers being broken into two groups. Both groups were given a pretest on how they dealt with aggression and violence, their substance abuse intake, if any, their knowledge of mental health issues, and how they felt about themselves, or in other words, how high or low their self-esteem was. One group was given life skills training for 10 weeks, 45 minutes per week. The other group wasn't given any life skills training at all. After the 10 weeks, the youth took a post-test to again measure how they dealt with aggression and violence, their substance abuse intake, if any, their knowledge of mental health issues, and how they felt about themselves. It was concluded that the group that was given the life skills training had a decrease in aggression and violence, a decrease in substance abuse intake, an increase in mental health issues and awareness, and their self-esteem went up. The group that was given no life skills training had slight or no changes at all. What are some skills youth can gain by having this training? Youth can gain critical thinking, creative thinking, problem solving, and empathy. So let's start with critical thinking skills. The Google definition defines critical thinking skills as the objective analysis and evaluation of an issue in order to form a judgment. Critical thinking skills can help young adults when trying to figure out an abstract question to solve problems in the real world that general school subjects like history, math, science, they just don't teach. An example of a critical thinking situation or a time that critical thinking skills might need to be used is for interviewing purposes. For instance, a young man could be preparing for a job interview and just thinking about how to explain his particular skills and experiences in a way that will be relevant and of value to the prospective employer. So pretty much just relaying his information and trying to use those critical thinking skills to get him a job is vital. And a lot of these subjects that we teach in schools, they just don't develop employability skills in how to prepare for an interview. Next is developing creative thinking skills. The Business Dictionary defines creative thinking as a way of looking at problems or situations from a fresh perspective that suggests unorthodox solutions. Creative thinking can be stimulated both by unstructured process such as brainstorming and by a structured process such as lateral thinking. Creative thinking is something that's not emphasized or developed enough in secondary education. It's encouraged in elementary school, like when we play house and cats or act like some type of animals, but slowly discouraged later on as you were taught to follow instruction instead. The reason why creative thinking is so important is because it opens new doors to an entire new world. Think of Facebook, think of cable, makeup, airplanes. Pretty much anything you can think of has been started with a creative thought. But the more high school discourages stepping out of the box and thinking new and exciting ideas and wanting you to follow just their instruction, the less new inventions and ideas will surface. The next skills that can be taught in life skills training is problem solving. Google defined problem solving as the process of finding solutions to difficult or complex issues. Problem solving is important because one time or another we're going to face a situation where we need to figure out that best solution. Whether you're the president of a company or a salesperson in a retail store, there will be times you have to figure out what the best way to solve a specific problem. Usually people associate problem solving with innate behavior. For instance, when you're younger, you drop the crowns, and to solve that problem, you pick up the crowns. But there's actually something that's called the stages of problem solving that will help to solve situations more efficiently in a timely fashion. I kind of want to go through each stage and kind of talk about what you do at each stage of problem solving. First, it's called problem identification. This stage involves detecting and recognizing that there is actually a problem, identifying the nature of the problem, and defining the problem. Next is the structuring the problem. This stage involves a period of observation, careful inspection, fact-finding, and developing a clear picture of the problem. Next is looking for possible solutions. During this stage, you will generate a range of possible courses of action, but with little attempt to evaluate them at this situation, or at this stage rather. In other words, this is the brainstorming session where you kind of just write down all your pros and cons. Next is making a decision. So this stage involves careful analysis of the different possible courses of action and then selecting the best solution for implementation. Second to last stage is implementation. This stage involves accepting and carrying out the chosen course of action. Last is monitoring and seeking feedback. This last stage is about reviewing the outcomes of the problem over a period of time and then including feedback as a success of the outcome of the chosen solution. The next skill that can be developed with life skills training is empathy. Empathy is the ability to imagine what life is like for another person, even in a situation that we may not be familiar with. So why is this skill important? Empathy is important because it helps us to understand and accept others who may be different from ourselves. It helps us open our eyes to people that may be a different religion, race, or sexual orientation and still treat them like a human being. For example, with the Muslim ban being such a big topic around the country right now, empathy skills could have played a major role in making some of those decisions. Hagee conducted a study on life skills training improving the overall quality of life. The quality of life can be defined in many different ways, but for this study alone, they classify the quality of life as health status, capacity to carry out activities of daily living, work role status, availability of opportunities to pursue recreational interests, social functioning in friendships and relationships, access to healthcare resources, and standard of living and general well-being. This study aims to investigate the effectiveness of life skills training on happiness, quality of life, and regulation, or emotional regulation rather. How this study kind of went down, they randomly picked 26 students. 8 of them were females, 18 were males. All the participants went and attended an introduction session, and they were randomly assigned to two groups. So there was an experimental group and a control group. In the introduction session, they kind of just generally explained for all the participants what was going to take place within that experiment. And then all the volunteers completed the Oxford Happiness Questionnaire, the World Health Organization Questionnaire, the Quality of Life Questionnaire, and the SHUT Emotional Regulation Questionnaire. Then they were broken up into their groups. So the experimental groups received 5 items of life skills. It was the coping with a negative mood, effective relationships, assertiveness, anger management, and stress management skills. They were delivered in 3-hour sessions divided in 2 1.5-hour parts. All the participants completed the questionnaires for the post-test examination. So once they were completed with the life skills and the pre-test, they then took the post-test examination after all the training was complete. Hagee discovered that there was a significant difference in the levels of quality of life between those who were trained and those who were not trained. With those who were trained, reported having a significantly higher life or level of quality life. So the results conducted revealed that life skills training is a useful program for increasing happiness, quality of life, and emotional regulation in students. So pretty much this article revealed that if people learn some important life skills, they will experience more satisfaction and happiness in their life. So what's being done now in high schools? Some may argue that high schools in fact offer classes such as sewing, cooking, and other homemaker classes. And yes, these classes are for any student in high school that decides to take part. But the downside of these classes are that they're electives, and electives are optional. High schoolers tend to opt out of taking these electives and instead take an early leave from the school day or have a study hall, for instance. So with them being optional, only certain kids are learning the basic life skills, when it's critical that all students get these life skills. Having life skills mandatory will give the parents, the teachers, and staff comfort in knowing that all the students leaving high school will have some foundation in how to successfully start living on their own. So, where do we start with implementing such a new risky subject inside the curriculum? There may be a lot of apprehensiveness because of budgeting reasons, space for extra classrooms, finding teachers that are willing and certified to teach this topic, and the pushback of the youth themselves having another class that is mandatory. Writing in an entire new class, it can be overwhelming, which is definitely understandable, but I feel like it's an easy fix. Um, First, to alleviate the stress of figuring out what to start teaching, give out a survey to your local college and ask, what do you wish you known before leaving for college? With these answers, the school can start building lesson plans that would be the most beneficial to students in that generation. Next, basic life skills should be something that all adults have, right? So there should be no need to hire more teachers to teach this subject. The lead administrator could take volunteers for the teachers already at the school, with some type of incentive, of course, but use those teachers to teach these classes. And this idea will alleviate the cost of hiring completely new teachers. Another option to help with space is to offer this as an after-school class twice a week, sort of like a sports team or a club. Being that it's an after-school class, this will not cut into the space that the core classes already are taking up during the regular hours. There are many low-stress options when deciding to implement basic life skills class in the high school curriculum. I think the hardest part is just getting started. To alleviate, another way to help alleviate the stress in implementing an entire new course is researching other life skill training programs. Botvan, who is a researcher that we mentioned earlier in the presentation, he developed a life skills training evidence-based course that is highly interactive, skills-based program designed to promote positive health and personal development for high schoolers worldwide. This course is ran for 10 weeks with approximately 40 to 45 minutes for each lesson. This program is designed to be taught either on an intensive schedule, so 2 or 3 times a week until the program is complete, or more extended schedule, once a week for 10 weeks. The Life Skills Training High School program uses developmentally appropriate collaborative learning strategies to help students achieve competency in the skills that have been shown to prevent substance use, violence, self-esteem, mental health issues, and other health risk behaviors. Some components of this program include drug resistance skills, personal self-management skills, and general social skills. Pretty much all the skills we listed earlier in the presentation that were proven to benefit young adults. This program is also backed by research articles conducted by Botman and his colleagues that brings comfort in knowing that these skills are actually proven to positively impact students' life. So in other words, instead of reinventing the wheel, school can use life skills trainings that are already developed to implement in their respective high schools. This presentation went over what life skills are, why they are important, certain life skills that are proven to benefit a young person's life backed up with research, the high schools or what high schools are doing now, solutions to implementing this type of program, and pre-existing life skills training that are already developed. Overall, young adults are entering the world unprepared. Most of them lack the basic life skills they need to survive. A high school's job is to prepare students for the future. If they only know the academic portion but not the basic tools they need to flourish in society every day, are they really prepared? It is so important that these students know how to perform everyday tasks so that they can feel confident and prepared when going into the real world to start their career or college. Thank you all for listening to my presentation on why implementing life skills training in high school is so important.